Welcome back, everybody. I'm Doug, and this is Dying to Retire. And today we're going to go over part 2 of my residency paperwork nightmare. And as folks recall, in the first episode, I talked about my working on getting a Guatemala residency, and that I was in preparation of going to a seminar. The seminar now has confirmed dates. It will be taking place in mid to late August. And after that, I'm going to be staying there for another week to 10 days because I want to stay behind there in case my Latin lawyer needs any additional work to be done that I need to be able to do in person, as well as I'm planning to do a couple trips to the greater Antigua area to look at different pieces of properties, especially in the gated communities, to get a boots on the ground experience and what they look like, as well as what each one of the residential or gated communities looks like. So without further ado, let's get started. And I'm going to put all these up on the board here for you to see, that side or that side. I'm not sure how it's going to show up. So let's just do a really brief recap. Before starting all this process, I needed to have several different documents in hand. First one being a birth certificate, marriage certificate, have to have proof of income, have a valid passport, and then eventually you have to have a FBI background check. Let's run through this. And before I run through, sorry about that. Before I run through everything, let me just remind folks, because I may have said this incorrectly in the first time, if for getting a pensioners or pensionados, a pensioner's residency or a spousal residency, you will need to still provide a proof of income. Doesn't matter which one you are. You could be married to a Guatemalan citizen. You still need to be able to show that you're not going to live off the Guatemalan government. So you're going to have proof of income. I think it's $1,250 a month now, $1,300, just round it up to be safe. Again, that falls within pensions or other people's investments who are also looking at these things. So let's get going. Okay. Just also on that recap, if you're looking at it, birth certificates, depending on where you are in the United States and where you were born, will run between $10 and $35. A marriage certificate, if that's your case, will run between 5 and 26 American dollars, USD. Proof of income, it will depend. If you're like me, with a federal employee or a retired federal employee, you can go to OPM and pull it down. If you have investment plans, you can pull down what annuities you're getting or what's the stuff you're getting in there. Again, if you don't have a valid passport, that's $130. And the FBI background check, let's get into that in a moment. All right, but overall that you're going to need, you have a sunk cost of about $191. So that's something you're going to have up front. Hopefully you already over time have acquired all of these documents. Now, before we jump fully into the apostille process and cost, a couple things we're going to talk in there. And not everything was a direct, how can I say, happened all in this order there. Also, there's a couple missteps that I did. I sent a couple of documents to the wrong, like Department of State versus the Office of Secretary of State for certain documents, passport. State Department will cash your check, but then they'll let you know you need to send it to your state. So for the apostille, to get an apostille for the birth certificate, Texas was $15. Marriage certificate, get that apostille. That was $15. Mine was Nevada. Background check is $18, but you go online to get it done with the FBI. You do this stuff all online. You have to have an email address, have to have internet. It's $18 to initiate the process. However, you have to go to somewhere like the post office that does digital fingerprints, and they'll do that. That's a charge of $50. But what they do is on that certificate that you get or that document you get from the FBI, it has like a 16-digit code number on it. When you get your fingerprints, they add that in so it goes directly to the FBI office that does the background checks, and it takes about 5 days. And I'll talk about that in a moment. I already had a copy of my passport. I have a color scanner so I can scan it there. Proof of income, already had it. But the cost of getting your passport apostilled was $5 for the state of Maryland. Same thing for the cost of apostilling a proof of income. However, that was a multi-step process because those two documents, you have to have notarized first. And then you take the notarized documents to the county courthouse that you're in here in Maryland, Montgomery County for me. Then they had to certify the notaries. Each one of those certifications cost like $1 each. So I had 2 documents certified, so it's $2. I have 2 documents that were notarized, that's $20. Now, the up and down for everything I sent out for notary, excuse me, for the apostilles had to have a self-addressed stamped envelope. In doing those, that's cost me about $24 overall. And then finally, when I got it all back, when I put everything in a packet, I sent it via DHL to Guatemala. That cost just a hair under $100. So for all over that, it cost me $284. Me taking time, using a computer and getting everything done, filling out the forms, mailing them myself, taking it down there. Now, remember what I talked about a little bit in the first episode. There are vendors, service providers who will do all of this for you. However, for each one of the documents I just talked about, they will charge between $100 and $250 range for each one of those, like I said, each one of those documents. Sorry, I'm rambling there because this part gets me really excited. By doing this myself, I spent under $300. If I used the services, and I would have had to purchase all of my birth certificate and my marriage license and all this stuff, I'd still have to provide those. It would have cost anywhere between $800 and $1,500 using those services. So you're saving yourself anywhere from $500 to about $1,200, $1,250. Remember, that's really important because getting the process down in Guatemala is going to cost you between $1,500 and $2,500, depending on your lawyer and how much they're going to do a lot of hand holding in the process. So that's the money you want for that process. So you're going to save money on this side. Now, more importantly is the timeline, because what kills me with people when you see this on TikTok, which I don't watch, or Instagram, which I don't watch, or YouTube videos who are showing the TikTok and Instagram videos, these people act like it takes a day. I've seen in one chat group where, very respected chat group, and I like it, yeah, they talked about, oh, it's really easy. They just went down to the consulate and started the process. That's right. You can go down to when you're in country, start the process for everything, but you need to have all this paperwork. And this paperwork takes some time. Like me, I had the paperwork in the house, but I had to round it up. So that's 1 or 2 days, right? FBI background check. Like I said, you go online with the FBI, you get it started, but then you have to get fingerprints. And then after your fingerprints, 3 to 4 days later, you get an email, and it's just an email. There is no hard document mailed to your house. That document's what you send down to the Department of State to get apostilled, straight up on there. But then for the notarizations, it did take me a couple days, but in reality, if I did it right, I would have had the notarizations in 1 day. The apostille process, that's the longest one because it can take up to 5 to 6 weeks. My apostille for my marriage certificate from Nevada took 5 full weeks. They put it all the way out there. So you have to give yourself some time there. When I got everything all together, finally, I was putting it all in a folder. I collated, made sure I had all the documents together, and then I got them where they were shipped to the Guatemalan Latin lawyer. It took about 5 days. I was very surprised on that. DHL got it down there that quick. But there's something I want you to remember on here on this timeline. Before I sent everything down, I did reach out to the Latin lawyer, and he was like, hey, here's some advice. Do not remove the staples, any of the staples from the apostilles document you get back from the state or from the Department of State. The reason why is depending on who you get down in RENAP when they're processing it, it could invalidate, sorry, I can't even speak English today, invalidate your apostilles. Also, scan all your documents without removing the staples, so do it carefully because this ensures that you have a digital backup. Also, once you put it in the mail and send it out, there's no give backs, no mulligans. You can't bring it back, especially when it's going overseas like that. Or not overseas, going to Latin America, Central America. Now, for those who are visually impaired people like me, this is what the process looked like. I got all the documentation and I started sending it out. And that took an overall 5 to 6 weeks to get everything done, right? Because I had a target date. I wanted to send it down to the Latin lawyer. And that target date was enough time before the seminar. Therefore, if the lawyer needed additional stuff, I could go back and restart it. Or hopefully when I get down to the seminar, I can hand it in person. However, like I said, the most important thing here is if you don't already have the front end documents, you're going to have to add another 5 to 6 weeks in your timeline. So before you have your submission date that you're aiming for, you're going to have 12 weeks, 3 months to start all this process. Now, there are some locations that actually do, when you're requesting your copy of your birth certificate or marriage license, they will do the apostilles at the same time, but not every place did it. And unfortunately for me, the 2 states I had to write for my documents did not do it at all. All right, so let's wrap this up. Getting all this, sorry, I'm going through the screens to clear. Getting all this will take time. It is not like what you see in the TV shows, the TikTok and the YouTubes. People just don't hop on an airplane and go. So you're gonna have to take time to get it all ready. Because like I said, when I'm done doing all this, I'm gonna be an extra 5 to 10 days, excuse me, an extra 10 days almost, to make sure I have all the documents in play. Do I need any hard signatures? Does the lawyer need me to go personally down to RENAP or to the US Embassy for something? And then those off days, I'm going to take the time to go down to Antigua, Guatemala to look at the residential properties and the gated communities, as well as boots on the ground looking at the actual communities where I can redo my scoring and rate it. So if you found value in this episode, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. Also, love to hear your comments. That helps a lot. So please put your comments below. Also, I have 2 videos for you guys to watch. The first one is the first video on my residency paperwork nightmare. And the second one's about scoring paradise, about looking at property before you actually get on a plane and fly down to physically look at them. As always, I'm Doug. This is Dying to Retire, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.